Hello, fifth grade. This is Mrs. Phelps. I wanted to make a video about our animal informative writing paper, just to kind of make sure that everybody's on the same page. We're kind of where we are, everybody's caught up, and we'll kind of go from there. So grab your packet and let's kind of get started to make sure that everybody is on the same page. So you should have this page in your packet. Mine is blank. Yours should be filled out. So if it is not, pause the video and go ahead and do that. We asked you to just take some time to do a lot of research and write down any and all facts that you possibly could or possibly noted about each of these things, right? These are the three topics of our three main body paragraphs. We have a paragraph on classification, a paragraph on characteristics, and a paragraph on like habitat and diet. So we asked you to do this, and then we asked you on page 7 to take the facts and write them down, right? So picking like the three most important facts for classification, you should have 1, 2, 3 written right here. For the three most important facts that you think for characteristics should be written right here, 1, 2, 3. And the three most important facts for habitat should be written right here, 1, 2, 3. The rest of this can be blank. We're gonna kind of fill those in as we go. Just to make sure that you have this beautifully written paper so that when you're ready to write your actual different paragraphs, it makes it really easy. Okay, so if you have not done either of these two things, pause the video and make sure that you are caught up. The next page in your packet is all about writing an introductory sentence. So this we did this one day at King's, where you guys had a chance to create several different topics or several different ideas of how to write an introductory sentence. And then we asked you to just select one to start your introductory paragraph with. So we asked you to practice lots of different ways because every writing style, everyone is a different writer. And these are all examples of ways that you can write strong, like a strong leading hook almost. We call them hook in a narrative writing piece, but this would be like your hook, so to speak, in an informative piece. So, and you were just to pick one. So now let's jump into what we are doing today. If any of these things you haven't done, pause the video, get yourself caught back up, and then jump back in with us. Okay, this should be your page 9 in your packet. This is all about the thesis statement. Okay, so a thesis statement is, as we've spent the last couple of weeks talking about nonfiction, and we've talked about main idea, we've talked about details, and oftentimes you've been able to find one sentence within a paragraph or longer piece that kind of sums up, ties everything up in a nice little neat bow about what the paper is about in an informative piece. This is called a thesis statement, okay? So the thesis statement is one sentence. This guy kind of sums up everything that you're gonna talk about in your paper without giving it all away, right? We don't want our introductory paragraph to be, 47 sentences long. We just want it to be a nice little 4 to 5 sentence little paragraph that kind of lets the reader know, hey, here's what you're going to learn about, and then you go into greater detail as we go. So page 9, we have some examples. I did one on tropical rainforest because you were writing your paragraph on facts and on animals. And I didn't want to practice on one that you guys were doing. So I did mine on tropical rainforest. So my topic would be, for example, tropical rainforests. And then here would be my 3 like subtopics, or what I would write my 3 paragraphs on. Kind of like we're doing ours on classification and characteristics and habitat. Okay, so the very first sentence we have, imagine a place where it rains all day. The sun is shaded by a canopy of bright green leaves. Okay, so if I flip back to page 8, the introductory like hook, for example, that I'm using is setting the scene, right? So I'm giving an example, getting the reader to kind of start thinking about this, okay? Then I go into I kind of talk a little bit about my topic. Okay, a sentence or two, just to kind of give the reader some information about what it is. Here's where you might add a fact or two that you did not use for any of these 9 facts, but that you still have here that you think are very interesting, or that it might be something that you want to add to the paragraph. Okay, so again, I did mine on rainforest, but I said this unique biome is known as a tropical rainforest. okay? Now here's where I get to my thesis statement, okay? So in my thesis statement, notice I have 3 subtopics, okay? And I've underlined them here. These all match with this. Note that they're in the same order, okay? This is super important in a thesis statement because you are going to be writing thesis statements the entire rest of your academic career. You will write them in middle school, you'll write them in high school. If you choose to go to college, you will write them in college. So it's so important that a thesis statement you really understand kind of now, and then you use that to help you as you go, okay? So I have, this is going to seem really random, but bear with me a minute. I have 2 eating utensils right here, okay? I've got 1 chopstick and I've got a fork. Okay, so my 1 chopstick, if I've decided I'm going to sit down, I've grilled a wonderful steak dinner and Brussels sprouts and mashed potatoes, and my gosh, I'm just salivating thinking about that. And I decide I want to eat it. Which one is going to allow me to have the most bites per, like most amount of food per bite? The 1 chopstick that I can just stab one thing at a time and get in my mouth? Yeah, I could do it, but it's going to take me hours to eat. Versus a fork. See how it has multiple like prongs, okay? So when we talk about a thesis statement, we talk about a 3-pronged thesis statement, much like a fork, that allows the reader to really understand in general what our topic and our paper is on, right? In 1 sentence, right? Just like we have 1 fork. Okay, so here we go. In a tropical rainforest, you will find a hot, wet climate. Unlike any other terrestrial environment, you'll be surrounded by lush, brightly colored plants and a large variety of animal species. So not only is it important that you're going to include your 3 subtopics, which for us is classification, characteristics, and habitat, but also that you do it in the correct order. Okay, and then you're just going to add a little wrap-up sentence that kind of sums up your introductory paragraph. Now, as you get into middle and high school, the closing sentence may or may not happen depending on your topic and what you're writing about, but for our purposes in 5th grade, we will have a closing sentence, okay? Now, we are not ready to just completely turn you loose as middle schoolers, although I have no doubt you guys will be wonderful as a middle schooler. But we are going to kind of give you like a close notes type of thought, okay? So we're giving you the bones of it. You are just going to go through with your animal and use this to help, okay? So I'm going to do mine on penguins because that is the sample paper that was written on page 4 of your packet. So that is the one that I am going to use for this purpose. But you are welcome to fill yours in along with me as you're going. But obviously don't write about penguins, write about your animal, okay? So the first thing you're gonna do is you're going to write your animal, okay? So penguins are, and then I have a little note right here. It's an adjective about how they are classified, okay? So in my paper that I wrote about penguins, I used the adjective unique. Okay, so this is really where a thesaurus comes in very handy, where you're just thinking about how they're classified, right? We know classification in general is a very specific, specified one. So maybe use your thesaurus to help you think of a word that might go in here, okay? We're gonna add an adjective about their characteristics, anything that you think about their characteristics that are wonderful. I am going to write special adaptive characteristics because in my paragraph I talked a lot about how penguins have adapted to life as they have it. So that's what I chose for mine. Characteristics and blank, so an adjective about their habitats. Okay, so the adjective I used in mine was distinctive. Okay, so obviously your animal is going to be different from mine, and your 3 characteristics or adjectives are going to be different than mine. But this is the bones of your thesis statement. As you continue to work through middle school, you will write a thesis statement in every other paper that you write for 5th grade. We will kind of help you along as we go, and then in middle school, you'll kind of be gradually released to starting to write them on your own. So if you're unfamiliar with it, take a minute to do that. Okay, now we're going to bring it on home. We're going to think of some sort of closing sentence for it. This is going to kind of sum up our first paragraph, however you want to do it. So I might say, these splendid birds oh gosh, let's think. Have many exceptional qualities as one of God's creatures. Okay, obviously yours can be completely different than mine, but really this sentence is just going to sum up for you in general about what you are talking about, right? So I ended up using a noun referent. I didn't say penguins again since I just used penguins the sentence before. So think about that as a way as you're writing. You don't have to include a lot of facts and details. This is just kind of like, hey, we've told you a little bit about penguins. As we go through the rest of this paper, you're going to learn even more details about penguins as we go. One last thing to think about as you're writing your introductory sentence and then also all of your paragraphs. When you wrote your narrative paper, you wrote it, you could have written it from your perspective or as a third person perspective, right? Where you were kind of taking a step back and writing your paper like you were watching it happen. In an informative paper, you do not actually talk to the reader, okay? So you're not like, hey, let me tell you more about penguins, or take this time, as you read this, you will learn a lot about penguins. You don't actually talk to the reader like that. Think of this as something that might be published in a textbook, okay? Or, something in a library, very informative. This one you wanna stick directly to the facts. Okay, so you don't want to take a lot of time to do that just as you're writing. That was one of the things we noticed in the last couple years when students wrote, if they had to go back and revise, was that they ended up talking to the audience. So just as you're writing, keep that in mind as you go. Questions? Email your teacher. Otherwise, 5th grade, have a great day.